The following is a special video presentation of the Hennepin County Library.
Hi, welcome to Discussion with Amy Decision. I'm Eileen Cavanaugh from the Hennepin County Library Program Office, and my guest today is the author of the Tightwad Gazette 2. Welcome to the show, Amy.
Well, thank you for having me.
We're going to have lots of fun today, I think, talking about some bargains that you found and some ways that people can save money. But first of all, I wanted to talk about Tightwad Gazette 2 as opposed to Tightwad Gazette 1, and to ask you to tell us a little bit about whether it's an update or an all-new book, and also a little bit about the changes that have taken place in your life since the first Tightwad Gazette.
Well, the Tightwad Gazette books are based on my newsletter, the Tightwad Gazette, and the first book was a compilation of articles from the years 1 and 2, and this is 3 and 4. This is years 3 and 4. I've been publishing about 5 years now. And it is all new material. I never repeat myself in the newsletter. I do occasionally update or improve upon something I've previously published, but generally speaking, they're all new topics. And there are some, I think 500 or 600 specific tips or things that are contributed by readers throughout the country. So it is, in a lot of ways, a book that I like a little bit better than the first one in a lot of ways, and I think that has something to do with the fact that I have a little more staff helping me now, and my life is a little calmer. I went through a point where I had twins at the same time that my newsletter boomed from 2,000 subscribers to 40,000 subscribers, so it was a little tough to be producing.
Did those twins kind of symbolize where your newsletter was going?
Oh, boom! I don't know. Our babies boomed at the same time, but it was just a very difficult time for me to do my best work under those circumstances. And you know, we've sort of grown and learned and decided we need a little more help, and we know when we need more help, and so we utilize other people, and we also have more subscribers now, and that is always giving us lots of people that are sending us ideas. You know, when I first would publish my newsletter, and I would ask readers I would solicit for specific ideas and try to get them to write me back on a certain subject, and I might get only 10 people that would write me back. Now it's not unusual for me to get 300 letters from people responding to a particular solicitation, and so from that I can put together really very comprehensive articles, and articles that are different in nature from the normal consumer type of information that's out there. You hear some things that are a little bit more creative and offbeat, but are a little more work better sometimes than what the mainstream information will tell you.
And being on Phil Donahue in February of 1995 probably is going to help that process along even
Sure,
more.
we're always looking for new people to share ideas, and I still find that I'm still learning new things all the time, and as I travel throughout the country, I find that I'm meeting people, and I'm finding that they know things that I don't know, and so I'm always wanting to tap into that resource. It's a wonderful, wonderful resource.
There's always something new.
Absolutely,
going on about. Well, your life has changed too, because when you started out with Tightwad Gazette, one of your goals was to be able to stay at home with your children.
That's right.
To spend some quality time with them, and you wanted a big house, and you wanted to have a larger than average family. So you really had some goals in mind when it wasn't just to save money, but it was to save money with a purpose in mind.
It was a means to an end. And and it's all of it's about trade-offs. You know, I was on a show recently and showing some of my frugal ideas, and a woman stood up and said, "Oh, what you do sounds so depressing to me," and it just struck me so funny, because I have all the things that I want. I'm living my American dream, and I feel a lot of excitement and loyalty and passion about frugality because it got me what I wanted. And so that's what I think is sometimes hard for people to understand, that I gave up what I didn't want so that I could get what I wanted.
And she was probably bespeaking some of the myths about tightwadery. Did you make up that word?
Yes, I
did. One of the myths I guess I've always thought about tightwadery is that people who are tightwads are ungenerous.
Yes, that's true. That's true. That is a huge myth out there. And when you stop and challenge that idea for just for a few seconds, if you got somebody that spends all their money on themselves for personal gratification, they don't have anything left over. And if you were a frugal person, you create a surplus and you can do something better with it. And for someone like myself, there's a limited amount of money I can spend on myself and spend well. So I will create a surplus, and that does enable and has enabled me to do some things for either people in my community or for some older relatives in my family right now I'm doing some things for.
Well, it's also a great spin-off, enabling teaching people in a sense, and you do teach people
Yes.
To save money in ways that frees it up for some better.
And we're talking about the difference in time from right now from now to when I started the newsletter. In the beginning, I was talking a lot about my own personal success story, and here we are 4 years into or 5 years into this process, and I'm getting a lot more stories from people now that are calling in, and like if I'm on a radio interview, I'll almost always get somebody that calls in and says, what I learned from you changed my life. I got your book 2 months ago, and my food bill has dropped $150 a month, or we saved enough money to go to college, or it's always something. So we're starting to see the fruit of this, few years down the line.
Well, in a sense, it's a philosophy too, and even a discipline of counting where your values lie. And
just being more conscious, of what you're doing. I think a lot of people going through life and not really thinking a lot about all the things they're doing, and sort of doing it automatically, or because that's what everybody does. And what I'm supposed
it's always
to
been
do.
done that way. Yes.
And you just have to start to challenge each thing individually and say, do I really need to do this? For instance, I haven't been out to dinner with my husband in over 10 years. And people always think that is such a strange thing. I mean, that somehow proves that there's something wrong with me. And that's the kind of reaction that I get from people. They can't understand that. But see, I decided 10 years ago that I don't like this that much. It's not for what it costs. So I gave that up. And I know why I'm doing that. But you have to know that within yourself, what you're doing and why you're doing it, and sort of tune out those messages from those people who are trying to tell you there's something wrong with what you're doing.
And maybe you substituted a candlelight meal at home or something that is just
I truly haven't missed it. I truly haven't.
What, in your experience, is the easiest to do and saves the most money?
Well, I think that in terms of making the most immediate changes, you need to focus on the things that you do every day. Because you've got your house. House is there's a big payment. It's a lot of things. It's a big expense, but you've bought your house and you can't change that, or you can't change it immediately. So you want to look at the parts of your life that are most disposable, and those also happen to be the parts where people tend to be wasting the most money. I find people are pretty shrewd about car buying, for instance, but they don't pay attention to the grocery bill. So those disposable things are going to be food, clothing, entertainment, gift giving, in those sorts of areas, and you can again do some really dramatic things in those. I mean, let's look at just clothing buying for adults. It's easy, right? You just stop. I mean, I don't know any adult that doesn't have enough clothes. You just stop.
Simple.
I mean, with children, there's a little more strategy involved because they're always growing and needing more clothes, but there's more strategy involved. But in the food budget, I find that people, on average, the average American is spending about twice what they need to. And if you can get someone that's doing $500 a month to get down to $250 a month, that's a huge difference. Over the course of the year, that's about $3,000. That's a lot.
And the course of a lifetime.
Yeah, that's a lot. So, so I would say work on, and of course, entertainment. You don't have to spend any money in entertainment, right? I mean, you really don't. I mean, there's so much good, wonderful things to do that are free or low cost. And I actually take it a step further. Most of what I do for entertainment actually saves me money. So I just really almost never spend money for entertainment.
So give me an example of what you do for entertainment that's fun.
Well, for grown-up entertainment, I think that going to estate auctions is great fun. I will go. I don't even go with my husband because then I have to hire a babysitter. So I go with a good friend that likes antiques and is willing to go just to have the good time. and we'll each pack a dinner, and we'll go and we'll just and we'll watch and we'll just enjoy. And once I sometimes see really good bargains, but not always. It's sort of more wholesale. It's not dirt cheap prices. But I just think it's fun to watch it. I'm interested in antiques, and I just think it's amazing to watch a Civil War diary sell for $2,000, or it's amazing to watch. And then every once in a while we find something that's a really good deal, a really good value, and we'll pick something up.
And it's educational and informative.
Absolutely,
too.
yes. I, as someone who is interested in antiques, it's just fascinating to me to see what things are worth.
Well, while we're talking about food and clothing and all these things, show us some of the things that you bought.
Well, you want to look at the yard sale things or the?
Let's do the yard sale things
Okay.
first.
Well, I brought some clothes, and these are things that this is the best of what I'm finding at yard sales. And now see that, for instance, you see right here, this was a secondhand item. A little girl's name was Heather, was originally in there. And this came from a church thrift shop, and it was about 50 cents.
Wow.
Wow.
Well, and how much is, well, I think $35.
Upward and up, sure. Yeah,
store.
a lot. And, and even, people will say, will concede, yes, you can find things for little kids, that's no problem, but what about bigger kids? But you see, I'm still finding there's a great skirt for a teenager. I'm still finding lots of good things. These are all items that are in the 25 cent ballpark. Here's where 3 shirts found together. I mean, what's wrong? This is like a new shirt that's washed.
Blue jeans, yeah.
Washed a few times. So I also do buy toys for my children at yard sales, and I give them to them for Christmas. And my children know the difference between new and used, and it isn't an issue for them. The only thing that's an issue is, do I like this thing or not? Is it the right style? Is it the toy that I want? And I find that occasionally, that there are certain things I can't find at yard sales ever. A complete erector set would be an example, and so that would be an example of something I would give new to a child. But we tend to sort of fill in around the edges with lots of yard sale things. And this was probably my best thing that I got at a yard sale last summer. This was a big bucket of Legos for $1.50.
Wow.
Yeah, I don't know how you begin to price that, but it could be, depending on how you buy it, it could be an item that would if you would purchase all these things individually in the little kits, it would be over $100 worth of Legos. So,
What a treasure.
Yeah, that was great. And we do, the children, 2 of my children got a complete cross-country ski outfit for Christmas, and so we're just finding lots of really great things, and they're happy with it. They're happy with it. The key is to find what is the thing that they want, and they know the difference between new and used, but it is simply not an issue for them. And I think that's because I, as a parent, have not in any way done anything through any body language or in any way suggested there's anything wrong with it, and so they just have accepted. It's just not an issue. I'm actually sort of amazed myself.
Well, you have said that you always have a list of your children's sizes with you, so I
Yes.
assume you're saying you also have a list of their Christmas wish list?
I
their birthday
I yard
wishes?
sale in the summer, and I specifically look for things that I think that they will really like. And I'm even finding with older children that there are some things that sort of cross over into the adult world that, let's say, a 10 or 12-year-old would like. I got a metal keep out sign for my son for $1, or a labeler, with the tapes, one of those a labeler gun, a kit for one of my children, and he thought that was wonderful. But it was actually something that came to me free. So I think that there's you can go out and find things, and I don't give them to them in the summer. I stockpile them and then bring them out at Christmas time or for birthdays.
Well, and sometimes for these really inexpensive things, it can be an unexpected surprise, which kids love.
Yeah. The other thing that I do is I find things at yard sales, and occasionally they need a little bit of work, and that's sometimes people are not visualizing enough. Now, I do buy yard sale sneakers for my children, but even if parents who don't want to do that, they can also use the same thing I wanted to show you today. Was one of the things that I've done is I do a lot of sneaker renovation.
This looks like those before and after.
Yeah, this is, I actually never buy a pair of sneakers in this bad a condition, but I brought one for a prop that I needed for a prop to show what can be done. But this was a 25-cent pair of Adidas sneakers. As I say, I usually find them in almost brand new condition. And I do a lot of stuff to bring them up to almost new looking. Now this is my renovated sneaker, and as you can see, there's really, you know, what would be so terrible to send a kid off to school at the beginning of the year with that? Nothing wrong with that. And I do it with a lot of different things. Some of these are just standard household products like dishwashing liquid.
Oh, Dawn, what do you use first? First you clean them.
I wash them really well. I would use a toothbrush and just clean them really well inside and out. You can immerse them, and then once they're dried, you'll see that they're almost, that's most of the work there. I also use a little bit of Comet for tough scuffs. And if I'm doing black sneakers, I find that a permanent marker is great to cover up some scuffs. And so then I do for the finishing, for any part where the paint has worn off, I use these new Kiwi products that are very good products. They're a little more expensive than I would like, but so I use them conservatively. And in this particular sneaker here, you see the paint was worn off in the front, and I just taped this area off and just sprayed this. And it will polish up to look to be a very similar finish. And I find the finish is not quite as durable as the original, but so in a month or two, maybe 3 months down the road, I'll hit it with a little more spray. It's not a big deal.
And with that size, that child is going to outgrow it.
Right, and then there's some other products, like here's some shoe goo, which is an excellent glue for any place where sneakers are starting to come apart. And I've even discovered that I can use a little bit of dental floss for sometimes the shoes, the seam might start to come apart. So I'll open the sneaker up all the way, unlace it all the way, and while I'm there watching TV, I'll just stitch that little thing up. So I find that actually works very well.
And these are leather. And you can do this with leather as well as cloth?
Yes, this Kiwi products this is specially formulated for leather sneakers. So, and I find vinyl cleans up even easier, just with the Comet and the dishwashing liquid.
And again, when you think of the price difference between a quarter and
a $25 pair of sneakers, and how much time is involved, maybe a half hour. You know, if you look at it, what it would my hourly wage be for doing this? Well, maybe $50 an hour. You know, this is certainly worth doing. And you know, we get most of our things during the summer months, and so sometimes during the winter months, the sneakers start to look a little bit sad. And so I do some of this stuff to spruce them up so they look good for the remainder of the school year until yard sale season comes around again.
Also, it offers you the chance to maybe buy during the summer and save it for those long, cold days of winter.
Yeah, well, I do buy extras, but occasionally I find that I haven't quite planned well enough, and the sneakers are starting to look a little sad, and so I will take them and spruce them all up again. And there's a lot that you can do. You just make them look as new as you can. And I always think about shoes. Anybody is looking down at a pair of shoes. It's about 5 or 6 feet away, so they don't have to look perfect. Clean is the key.
Well, and a lot of kids who have new sneakers don't look perfect by any means anyway, so I think you're in good company.
Well, you know, it's one of the things I think is interesting about that is I find that people who buy the new shoes probably are not quite as aware, and so they tend not to clean them up more. So the shoes that my children have might actually look a little bit better because I tend them more. Because I want to make sure that their shoes look good because they weren't purchased new.
Let's get into some food stuff.
Well, what I brought to show here is there's 2 different groups of items I wanted to show you. These 4 things here are convenience foods. Now we buy, what people always they buy convenience foods so they don't feel they have enough time to make this stuff from scratch.
I'm a working mom, and
I'm a working mom. I don't have time to do this, so they buy convenience foods. Now, for instance, but what we fail to understand, and if we would actually just take some time to do some calculations, we find that some of this stuff is astonishingly expensive. This, for instance, is 99 cents for this microwavable spaghetti and meatballs, but the actual cost of the contents inside is about 9 cents.
And I bet it doesn't taste very good either.
And and so when you think about that, you think, well, that's a pretty high-paying job for me to spend part of my Saturday afternoon to make a big pot of American goulash or whatever they call it out here in the Midwest, and then put them in some little butter tubs and freeze them away and make your own microwavable spaghetti. And these snack packs here, now these are very expensive. I always make jokes about these. I think these are just about the worst thing. These are 29 cents per each one of these little things here, and they have about, let me look at my note, 8 cents worth of pudding in it. And I make scratch pudding. I make it with cornstarch. I don't buy the pudding packets. But you see, when you look at those sorts of numbers, it gets scary, and you think, how much work is it therefore for me to make a big pot of it and to put it in little insulated containers and set it aside for my child's lunch boxes? Now, people do this stuff because they feel like they don't have time, but what we fail to realize again is if you calculate that hourly wage, what are we doing here? Like, for instance, we can look at some fairly simple examples here. Now, you can put juice boxes in your child's lunch box, or you can put a thermos in which you've got juice from a big container. And there's actually about 13 cents worth of juice here and about 20 cents worth of packaging. So if your child wants juice boxes, just remind him this is like putting 2 dimes in the trash. We don't want to do that.
Plus which you can buy very large amounts of apple juice inexpensively.
Right, and so again, by calculating how many seconds does it actually take me to pour it, and just imagining how long it takes you to rinse the thermos at the end of the day, and you're multiplying it out throughout the course of the hour, because sooner or later you'll spend an hour of your life pouring juice. Think about, this is a $24 an hour job, see? Just taking, I don't buy potato chips, I do more with popcorn than potato chips, but even just something like this, big bag to little bag, this would be over $30 an hour to put potato chips in a Ziploc bag. And what really concerns me about this is when we're looking at particularly working mothers or whoever is the smaller of the 2 incomes in the 2-income family, when you start to subtract out the cost of child care, taxes, transportation, wardrobe, all of those kinds of expenses, and then you look at that parent is not working 40 hours a week because you got to figure in the time to get back and forth to work, the time to blow dry your hair, to put on your makeup, to shop for the clothes, and you put these 2 numbers together, and what you see very often is people are working for under $5 an hour in reality. And that gets a little scary, because this means, like in this particular example here, we're working for 5 hours to buy 1 hour's worth of convenience. Mm-hmm. See, and that's why people feel like they're not getting ahead. Mm-hmm. They make the mistake of thinking, well, I'm not getting ahead, so I can't work less. But actually, maybe they should consider working less and doing some more frugal things to make up the difference. And again, if you look at everything in this hourly wage sort of context, you can make decisions about, this is a $1 an hour job, I won't do it. If it's a 20, 30, maybe this is a thing I should pay attention to. The other thing I wanted to show you today was coupons. Now, whenever people find out that I'm Amy Decision of the Tightwad Cassette, they think, oh, I do coupons too, and they presume that I'm an enthusiastic coupon user. Well, I live in an area similar to this area that does not have double coupon stores, and I find that they're really not very useful for me. But even in areas where there are double coupon stores or occasional triple coupons, the coupons are not as useful as we've been led to believe that they are. And it's an individual thing. You have to do some pretty careful calculating. Now, this is an example of a good coupon. Okay, this is free. This was $10 off a prescription. No doubt about that one. That's easy. Anyway. You have to buy it anyway. Now, most people are sophisticated enough to look at, say, a 20-cent coupon for this is a jar of peanut butter, 20-cent coupon, and they double it. And most people are sophisticated enough to walk down the aisle and buy the generic or the store brand stuff. That's some pretty easy math.
Which is probably 70 cents cheaper than.
It's still in this particular case, I normally buy peanut butter on sale for this size for about 99 cents. So this was significantly more, even with the coupon. Okay, most people understand that one. When we're looking at something like salad dressing, you see, this is when it gets more complicated, because most people don't know what the cost of the ingredients for this salad dressing is. And salad dressing is very easy to make. Mm-hmm. This, for example, has about 23 cents worth of ingredients in it. So even if we doubled this 30-cent coupon, it would be still 79 cents for this, or about 3 times as much as if you made it for yourself. We have some Hungry Jack pancakes, okay? Microwavables, got 12 in there. This is about 36 cents worth of ingredients to make this much pancakes, but even if we double the coupon, the price would be $1.09. You see, that's when it gets complicated. Now, this example here I think is really fun because it shows that how we get sort of involved in the little coupon merry-go-round thing. In this particular case, I actually misplaced my coupon, but it's such a good example I wanted to show it. You had to buy these two items together, and you had a 55-cent off coupon. And then you would go ahead and double it. But the combination of what's in these two ingredients is about 78 cents. So even with the double coupon, this product, I would pay $1.48 for these two items. So that's a pretty complicated little comparison. Now, before the coupon price for this was $2.58. So the average not too sophisticated coupon user goes into the store and looky here what we have on the outside here. There's $2.75 worth of coupons inside. If I buy this, I will get these two products for free.
But I can't use any of the coupons.
Well, that's the thing. I have the coupons in here, and I can cruise through these pretty quickly, and I know that none of these coupons is going to save me any money. So, but we get into the little coupon merry-go-round trap, and we have to be, I'm not saying, you have to be careful. I'm not saying never ever, because certainly in certain areas of the country where we have double coupons available and triples, and sometimes even single coupons can be useful. But I just feel that there's been a tremendous amount of very one-sided, misleading information out there, and I feel sort of compelled to occasionally present the other side.
Well, Amy, in the 2 minutes we have left, tell me, have you ever gone too far?
In being thrifty?
Mm-hmm.
I think that the basic strategy I like to do is to gradually lower my spending in each area until it no longer feels comfortable, and move it, and then when I find that, then move it up one notch. And there have been times where I've found that it's not quite enough. I didn't spend quite enough on the kids for Christmas, or I needed to use hot water and when I washed my laundry or something like that. But generally, though, I don't really feel that that's ever a problem.
Now, are your children going to have computers when they get up?
We do have a computer in the home, and these are over the years have been computers that are rejects from my business. So when those computers no longer work for our business, we bring them over to our home. But yeah, I think having had children exposed to a computer, I am very impressed with what they're able to do with them, and so.
Now, I'm going to try and squeeze in one very important question, and that I think you could make a lot of money off of if you could teach people how to deal with their adolescent children who want the expensive brand jeans and the designer clothes that everybody else is wearing. And most parents say to me, hey, there's just no way around that.
Well, there is a way. It is a way. You have to start with the children. It's helpful to start with the children when they're very small, but on and you have to share information with them on a regular basis. And they will accept things. And I don't have teenagers now. I have readers who are teenagers, and they say it can be done. I did an article in a very recent issue of my newsletter on proms and how inexpensively you can do proms. So this is doable. It's a matter of presenting the information to the child in the right way. And if you do that, they will accept it.
Amy, thank you so much for being with us. To the viewers, pick up Amy's book called Tightwad Gazette 2, and you can read many, many, many good ideas for saving some money. Thanks for being with us.
A presentation of the Hennepin County Library.